Welcome in to another episode of Chiefs Focus Live. We have a full show today. We're going to talk about the injury report. We will head over the hill and across the ocean, talk a little Tyreek and the Fins defense, and we will finish the show off with our normal score petitions, believe it or not, and we'll, smack talk some Raiders in there. My name is Quentin Morris. We got Thiz running the show in the background, and now two guys who are ready to take their version of an extended business trip to Europe, JP and Caleb.
I'll be taking it from my couch.
That's right.
With some soda for my couch.
What's up, guys?
Doing good. Good to see everybody.
Nice seeing everybody, man. Thiz, how are you, sir? What a week. What a week. It's just been crazy. I mean, it's been a crazy week in football. A lot of trades, a lot of weird things went on. People pissed off because the Chiefs didn't go after a wide receiver. Who cares?
Are we surprised?
Did we expect them to? No. I mean,
No,
it
they
wasn't
don't
going
have
to
the draft
happen.
capital for it.
Yeah, they don't. And they weren't going to do it anyway. Even if they did have the draft capital, they were not going to do it. They kept Richie James for a reason. They were going to trade him, decided not to. From what I understand, it's going to be a little bit of a slip for Sky Moore. And when Richie James is able to come back, then we'll see what happens. But he's still on his 21-day window right now.
Yep, I saw that this happened.
Yeah. So, hey, man. I mean, it is what it is. People got to catch the football. Mahomes was out there playing with 102.8 temperature and the bubble guts and still did a pretty damn good job for a guy that was sick as a dog. And they weren't catching the ball. So, kind of is what it is. But, hey, the game's in the past. What are we going to start off with here?
I think the injury report is where we generally start this off with. So good news on the Chiefs front. Once again, the Chiefs continue to be relatively healthy. Only a couple guys didn't practice on Wednesday. McKinnon and Gay didn't practice. Both of them were limited today, but, good to see them back. Clyde didn't practice.
Illness.
Yesterday or today, but that's a non-football, illness related. The big one that's on here actually to me is Richie James. So he's still on IR and he's been out with that knee injury, but he's been a full participant this week. So that's good to see. Just to see him, start to make that comeback from a knee injury. So the Chiefs continue to be a pretty healthy team.
Yeah, I'm happy that
really
they didn't trade him. I mean, I'm glad they decided not to trade him. They were going to. They were close.
Yeah.
I mean, but they
There's
didn't.
sewers out there.
Yeah.
I mean, going into the year, I thought he was going to be like the guy that took that big step up, and unfortunately, we haven't
kind of held him out.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll have to see when he comes back, see how he does. But like I said, going out, you're on IR with a knee injury. You're a wide receiver. You're an older player. You never really know, right? So to see him be a full participant, you've got these, landmarks that you have to meet, and he's meeting them. So it's just good news.
It's good news all the way around. Can't wait to get Nick Bolton back, but that's a couple months away. Probably talking about the end of December before you see him, at least the middle of December. But they're in Germany right now, and everybody looks pretty laser focused. There was a conversation that was made or had, and apparently that went as well as you can expect after that loss. And Mahomes led that conversation. So I expect them to change a few things going into this week. They're going to make some changes. I think they're going to change up the packages. You're going to see different players in different positions and utilized in different ways. That's what I've been told, and I feel like that's what they're going to do, especially against the Dolphins. You can't really excuse what went on last week. It was just a sloppy performance, but you learn from it and you move forward. Andy's flat out said, I've never seen that out of these guys. So when you don't, if Andy's saying that in a presser,
there's something wrong.
Or there's something wrong, and he's got to fix it.
Yep.
I think the play calling was bad. I think the wide receivers, there was a lot of them running the wrong routes, mainly Sky Moore. I mean, I'm just going to call him out
Again,
right
he's
now.
been the assistant for 2 years. It makes
Yeah.
no sense why he's doing this. And
And what
again,
people don't understand, I'm sorry, I was just to say, what people don't understand is it only takes one guy to screw that up.
Yep.
One guy can run the wrong route, and it screws it up for everybody. So,
Well, because what happens is then you have guys that are, running in the same area.
Yep.
So then what ends up happening is you have one defender guarding two people.
Correct.
And I want to add this as well. I understand the Chiefs are trying to get the best route runner, but sometimes you just have to go out and get a dog. And I know that they like Sky Moore, but Pickens was there. Trade up a couple spots to get him. You got to get dogs because he could come down the ball better than what MVS was doing. But that's a story for another day. We don't need to get into that. But there's some things that have to be fixed. And sounds like in this thing that was taken care of, he called some people out and he also took ownership. And that's good because I'm just saying this will not have happened the Alex Smith days. You're like, oh, we tried and all the blah, blah, blah. Like, no, I'm glad they took ownership and good because they got to shut this team up, the Dolphins, because they do an awful lot of talking, especially our old friend Tyreek.
Yeah, he never shuts up anyway. That guy talks in his sleep. Scott, you know what I think is annoying to me, and I'll leave it at that, is Sky Moore he's taken zero ownership for any mistake he's made. He doesn't say, oops, it was my fault. Oops, I fucked that up. Well, I guess we'll get him next time. What kind of answer is that? What kind of answer is that? That's not how you take ownership of your mistake. I mean, you can't throw a better pass than Mahomes threw to him, and he was wide open. Can't throw a better pass.
Yeah.
So he's got to take ownership for his mistakes and get out of that. He's almost in that prima donna mentality because of the end of the year last year and what he did during the Super Bowl. This is a different year. We started off 0-0. I mean, it just kind of is what it is.
Yeah.
But anyway, moving on. A lot of talk in Germany right now. A lot of teams right now, the Buffalo Bills want us to beat the Miami Dolphins pretty bad because they want to take control of if they beat, Cincinnati I don't know how it works out exactly, but apparently if we beat them and they beat Cincy, they take control of the AFC East. That's what they want. Who knows? I have a feeling, this is going to be a different football game. I don't think it's going to be an extreme blowout, but I think it's going to be you're right. It is a huge game. This.
Hey, the reason this game is so big is a lot of tiebreakers come into play here.
Yep.
And if you're able to beat Miami, who is a pretty good chance of winning that division, right? Then you would hold the tiebreakers up to this point over the Jaguars and the Dolphins.
Yep.
To a point.
And that's huge. I mean, that's a huge thing. I think the defense is going to be able to shut them down. Here's the thing. With Tua, he's terrible under pressure. He is horrible under pressure. If he can't get the ball out quick enough, which I don't think he'll be able to against this defense, he falls apart. And if you go back and watch any of his film, when he's under pressure, in fact, the 2 times that they lost, both times he was under a tremendous amount of pressure. And their offensive line is not that great. So I'm just saying, Spagnuolo, put the pressure on him. You got Omenihu, you got Chris Jones, you got Karlaftis that's now leading the team in sacks, which is insane to think about. He was 6. He's a half a sack higher than Chris Jones right now. You just have to put the pressure on this guy and make him crumble. That's what you have to do. With that being said, what do you guys got?
I will say this. It's going to be a tough game. You're going to deal with Tyreek Hill. You're going to deal with this offense that everyone likes to move the ball. But the defense should be able to hold him in here. What I'm concerned is the offense putting up points. Because the offense that the Dolphins have can score at any time. Now, pressure is key. Pressure is key getting it on 2, which we have the guys that can do it. But this offense with guys who've been dropping balls and won't fight for balls, that's the scary part. So it's going to be interesting to see what individuals do. I'm going to be honest with you. I was surprised to see Carl Hartman take full ownership responsibility on Twitter after that game. I was extremely surprised. I think he could have a big game. He grew up. But I also believe this. If this team wants to win, we can't have this my vanilla ice cream offense performance. Stop with the shovel passes, throw the doggone ball, run it down their throat. You can win.
Yeah.
You can win.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm just being blunt. You can beat this team, but we have to. I know Quinn's smiling over there. You gotta stop with this vanilla-like offense to big teams. No, Andy, Matt Nagy, you becoming worse than the enemy at this point if you're going to continue the false philosophy. That's what got you in trouble before you left. When you took the Bears head coaching job in the playoff game against the Tennessee Titans. I was there. It was cold. It was brutal. You should not have to do that. You have some of the best offensive weapons in this league that can do a lot of things. Tyreek Hill wants to talk and say, you know what? Just stop 87. You know what? This is the time for MVS to finally step up and go grab a big ball. This is the time for Sky Moore to hit a filthy slant route and then juke a guy out of the shoes. This is a time for Rashee Rice to have one of the most spectacular catches, similar to Demetrius Harris, and not drop the ball. This is the time for Pacheco to lay some hits and knock Jalen Ramsey over. This is the time for Buck Cardinal, a 64-yard field goal. I mean, they need to be on their toes for this, because if they don't, this is going to be and we don't need that. So they need to come with their air game. They have to. This is the time to show them we're not backing down, because the Dolphins can be beat. The Dolphins got smacked around by the Bills. The Chiefs can return the favor.
Yeah,
look,
I agree with
you.
If
we're going to talk about the Dolphins offense, one of the things you have to do is you have to block up the middle of the field. I think we've talked about this before, but I might be wrong. The Dolphins love to throw the ball between the hashes. That's where they get a lot of their yak from, right? So, their system comes off that Shanahan tree, right? We talk about Shanahan, and because Shanahan is so good at making and creating space for the run game for, running backs, it's just like they always seem to get extra blockers out there no matter, what they're doing. It's very similar for the Dolphins offense, except take that system and apply a passing game to it. You have Jalen Waddle, you have Tyreek Hill, you have some of the fastest players in the NFL all in the same offense. And so when you're able to get all of these different players out in space, a little 4-yard slant route can become a 27-yard, run after catch. So by taking away the middle of the field, you remove a lot of those routes that the Dolphins continue to benefit from. So I throw a little 5-yard in route to you. Well, I'm going to shut it down right there, and you're not going to get all of those yards after catch. And I'm going to make you do, the 12-yard drive down the field instead of trying to get it all in one chunk play. The Dolphins offense is a lot like the Chiefs offense was a couple of years ago, where it was
2019, 2020.
Yeah, it was that big play. I'm going to score in 3 plays because I have Tyreek Hill, I have Jalen Waddle, so I'm going to go and create these chunk plays, and I'm going to do it by creating open space with my speedy receivers. Well, if you're able to take away the middle of the field, sort of in that basically run box, right, then you can limit a lot of those big plays. And I think Kansas City has the linebacking core to do it. I think that this is a game that you really wish you had Bolton for, but Drew Tranquil is one of the best coverage linebackers in football.
Yes.
You have Chenal, who continues to be an improvement and is a starting caliber linebacker, who is our 4th linebacker on the roster. And Willie Gay, even though he's injured, we just talked about earlier that he is coming on. He's a full participant in practice, coming off the injury report, and so he should be good to go. I think that this game is going to come down to the linebackers and being able to take away that open space before guys even touch the ball.
Yeah, I agree with you. And to Caleb's point, I think what we're going to see different packages out of the offense on our side of the ball. From what I've heard and understand, they're going to get Tony and McCole involved a lot more. And they're going to kind of shy away from some of the stuff that you've seen happen with the little shovel passes and McKinnon, for the most part, by the way, is supposed to, they said they want to get him more involved in the red zone, which he is a legitimate red zone threat. I mean, he really is, no matter how you look at it. If you line those guys up correctly, put them in the right packages against that defense, you're going to score. You just have to do it. You can't do what you've done in the past 3 weeks, really, to be honest with you. The play calling has been terrible. But I think that's all going to change. This is everything that I've been asking all week. Will, I'm sorry I didn't see that. No, we did not do anything on Tuesday, given the fact that it was Halloween and I have a daughter that drove me crazy, so we couldn't do it. But we're here now. But anyway, yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see how they attack the Dolphins this week. And I think it's just going to be simply playing fundamental football like we know how to play instead of all this trickery, this ignorance, this 2015 screen passes out of the backfield shit. I think all of that's going away. I don't like to say a whole lot, but I heard it was a pretty interesting conversation. I'll just put it that way. And Mahomes took some ownership. He took a little bit of ownership, but which he had. I mean, he played pretty well for a guy that was sick and fever in the bubble guts. But again, he made it very clear that if I'm going to pass you the ball, you better fucking catch it. So I think it's just things will change, and I think it's going to change for the better. I think what we're also going to see, especially given the fact that if they're going to mix Tony in more and mix in McCole more, probably going to see a little less of Sky Moore right now. And when Richie James comes back, we'll see a little bit. What's up, Philip?
I'm not surprised.
See a little less. Yeah, we're going to see a little less of him. He's just
I
not.
I could have caught the ball wide open in the end zone.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm just saying, if you're high off of that, I mean, I understand, but
yeah,
his performance this year has been lackluster. So,
I
mean, maybe I'm too harsh, but the team like the Dolphins, they got some dogs on their defense. So if you're going to drop a wide open pass or top off your hands and Jalen Ramsey picks it off, I mean, you can't put that on Mahomes.
No.
And he's not the only one. There's other ones to call out, but maybe we'll see it here all night. So
yeah. I mean, honestly, the main focus of what I've heard was him and MVS were the two that were the biggest problem. But also, let's think about this from a practical standpoint. If you're doing something that doesn't work by halftime and you don't make the adjustments to fix it, not going to fucking work. I mean, you came out and you did the exact same thing and you basically fell. So that's where the adjustments come in, and you make those changes to put people in the right position to win.
Well, how would you say these changes are going to help them against the Dolphins? Because, I mean, they're a solid team, but we've seen when they play against some dogs, a team like the Bills, who I believe are a step under the Chiefs, and I think you could say they're a step above the Dolphins, and then the Eagles, who are on par with the Chiefs, or some would say maybe they're on up another echelon because they actually make trades. How do you guys think the Chiefs can handle this? Because they have some playmakers, and they keep reloading every year at the deadline, it seems like, with this money, and the Chiefs are just
I'm going to say this because
all I'm saying is they're finding money.
No, I agree with you. I know I agree with you.
They're finding money. Beach is being very stingy. How is the Chiefs going to go against the Dolphins?
I agree with you, Vaughn. And then I think we had this conversation about a year ago, and we had a little bit of a heated discussion about this. Not you and I, all three of us together, because one of the comments that I made was, you can rotate players in certain skill positions and be okay with that. But when it comes to wide receivers in this fucking offense, you can't continually rotate them every 2 or 3 years and expect to get results. This is what I was afraid of. This is exactly what I was afraid of, is that you start rotating too much, and then these guys come out and they run the wrong routes. They don't know what the fuck they're doing, and somebody falls on their ass. And that's exactly what's happened. We were missing Richie James. We didn't have, we had a lot of young guys on this offense that are running the wrong routes. And by the way, Travis Kelce is the highest graded tight end right now in the league at 88.7 per PFF, which is fucking astonishing right now to think about. But he is. He's the highest graded tight end. And he hasn't had a stellar season. He's had 3 good games. The rest of them have been 50, 60-yard games. You can't continue to rotate these fucking wide receivers in and out. It's not going to work for you. It's just not. You can't put that much pressure on Patrick Mahomes to have year in and year out, bring these guys down to Texas, teach them how to play, expect them to learn it all, and expect them to come out and play like they did in 2019, 2020. You're not going to get that. At some point, it's going to fail. And this is a product of being fucking cheap. I'm not saying Rashee Rice.
Quentin, would you agree with this? Would you agree with the Chiefs have been kind of cheap?
I mean, it's hard to say because I just think that they're investing their money in other places, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kansas City is investing its money on its offensive line. They're investing at draft capital and in early draft capital in high valuable defensive positions like defensive edge and, last year when they drafted McDuffie at corner, right? So I don't think that I don't think they're being cheap because they're investing in other places to try and help this team win. If you just look at the flip side of what Miami is doing, Miami, they don't have a superstar quarterback. They have a good quarterback in Tua. But in order to elevate that team, you go out and you invest in top 5 wide receivers like Tyreek Hill, and you continue to improve the other guys around it, like, getting guys like Jalen Waddle and getting just other weapons around him. So I don't think you can say it's being cheap because you're paying your quarterback
how would I say this? Not that
he's
the
highest paid quarterback.
Well, not drafting cheap. I'm talking free agent. I'm talking free agent or.
I mean, you went out and you signed Charles Omenihu. You went out and you signed.
But that was a
Taylor.
1-year deal, $6 million. I mean, those are. I mean, I'm just saying the Chiefs. It seems like some of the moves are to save money, which is understandable. But sometimes you have to make the move. I mean, the Eagles are constantly rotating players in, bringing in guys. They're figuring out a system, and I kind of a little concerned because Veach would always do a trade. The last couple years before this, he was always doing a trade or two during training camp or right after training camp to bring in these proven guys these guys who are high draft picks, who are on a roster, who are struggling, like a Darren Lee, like a Reggie Ragland, and they were able to came and do immediate help, and we haven't done any of those. And yeah, I understand the Chris Jones situation is bizarre, but I feel like if you're trying to compete, and if the Chiefs don't do well this year, I'm going to look back at Beach and say, well, you didn't prepare the team the way you needed to be. The players can only do so much if we're not having elevation. Like KT, I like Tony, but there's no way he was considered to be a number 1 wide receiver. He gets hurt too much. He doesn't get the ball thrown like a number 1 wide receiver. That's all I was saying. Guy gets some like D-Hop. If you're going to get a person in the draft, Sky Moore, I understand, but you got other individuals out there like a George Pickens who can really step up. So I understand where they're coming from a standpoint, but you have to take the plunge. You got to eventually in certain instances.
And here's the thing. You can invest all day long in draft picks for defense. That's great. I'm glad you did that.
But we need some offensive firepower.
The wide receiver room is something that you can't expect. I understand Patrick Mahomes is great at elevating wide receivers. I get all of that. But he's also, at some point, he's one guy. And you have to, and we had this talk, all 3 of us, and I said it then, I can go back and find the show. I said, this is going to come to bite us in the ass at some point. Because, yeah, it worked well for us last year. That's great. But we had Juju, an experienced wide receiver. We had guys that were able to step in. We had McCole that did well for the time he was on the field. This year, we didn't have any of that. We had Sky Moore, a second-year guy that came on, week 16, week 17, whatever it was. You have Travis Kelce, Noah Gray, and Justin Watson. That's what you have. And then everybody else was sprinkled in. And you expected them to go out there and play with this fucking dominance, especially when you're not calling the plays that you should be calling to make them successful. So if you're going to bring these type of guys in, at least call plays to make them successful. If you're
Here's
not,
what I'll say is, I think that the Chiefs' offense was supposed to be elevated by Kadarius Toney, and I think Kadarius Toney has failed. Or the Chiefs failed Kadarius Toney.
There you go. That's a little bit better.
Putting
That's a little bit better.
Expectations on him.
Yes.
The entire offseason we talked about, well, we didn't talk about, the Chiefs talked about how he was going to be a number 1 wide receiver. I mean, they used the phrase, he's going to be a star in this league. And I've never heard those phrases come out of Arrowhead Drive before. Like that's not something that the Chiefs usually do. They're usually pretty quiet about their offseason, and they just sort of do their thing. Jerry Jones isn't the owner of this team, so we don't get a lot of side comments about one specific player. And then they trade for Kadarius Toney. He has that big play in the Super Bowl. During the entire offseason, it's don't worry about the wide receiver room. We've got Kadarius Toney. He's going to be great. And then
They're not utilizing him correctly, though, either. I'm sorry, but they're not. They're not utilizing him right. They are not even doing with him what they did last year in the Super Bowl or even prior to the Super Bowl. They're not using him the same way they used him last year. If you look at how he's being used this year, where he's lined up, first of all, how his routes are ran or given to him, and then this screen shit out of the backfield, how do you expect him to succeed? We don't know if he's going to be a superstar in this league because he's not being utilized the way he should be to be a fucking superstar. I mean, I'm sorry, but they're not using him right. That kid is fast. He's dynamic. He's got a lot of cuts, a lot of moves. He knows how to run a route. Put him outside and let him run a route. Let's see what he can do. If you took him and McColl and even put him in the slot, just say, and you put Rasheed where he succeeded on the outside, where he was best at, you put him on the outside on one side, and if you put MVS on the outside on the other side, and you had a 2 tight end set, it's golden. Who are you going to cover? But they're not doing that. And then you sprinkle in a little bit of McKinnon and a little bit of Pacheco. It was so mismatched last week. I was blown away at how bad these guys were put into position to fail. And it kind of was that way, not the week before, but the week before that, against Denver again. It was like those 2 games, they were put in position to just fail. Toney didn't do shit against the Chargers. Oh, I'm sorry, he did. He was in the backfield, and he gained 1 yard. 1 fucking yard with that dumbass play again. He is not that guy. That doesn't work for us anymore. When Toney's lined up in the backfield, they're going to sniff. A fucking Girl Scout group can sniff that out. Put him out in the open field and let him play the game. He's very good. He can catch a football. He can run a route. He's one of the better players we actually have. He's a hell of a lot better than Sky Moore. Why is Sky Moore getting the bulk of the fucking reps when Toney's a better player? Why is Sky Moore out in the middle of in the middle of the field? Why is he running routes? He can't run a route. He can't catch a football right now. Put his ass on the bench, drop him back on the depth chart, bring Toney up, and move on. That's why you brought McColl back. Why'd you bring him back? You brought him back for his experience and the fact that he understands our system. So just fucking do it. Instead of just playing this piddly-paddly fucking shit that they're doing. It's driving me crazy, man. It actually makes me ill to think about it. And I had to actually stop watching all 22 about the 6th time in because I was pissed. Because I look at these plays and I think, why the fuck is Toney not in this particular play? He lined up well against this guy, so why not put him in this play? Wait a minute. Now, you see Sky Moore getting his ass handed to him, but you got 3 other wide receivers that could be in that same position and maybe actually help. Where were they at? Nowhere to be found. It, honest to God, reminded me of the 2016, 2015 Chiefs. And that pissed me off because we are not that fucking team. We're just not. I mean, we haven't been that team. We haven't been that team since.
Here we go again.
You're right, Liz. I'm on a rant, and I'm going to stay on it for a minute. The Denver game in 2017, we have not been the same team since. Am I right? Have we been a different football team than prior to that Week 17 game? Or Week 16 game, I'm sorry. 300 yards? We have been a totally different football team. Why the fuck are we reverting back? Why are we going backwards?
You already know why. I don't need to say it again.
What it does is it causes trust issues between your quarterback and your wide receivers. Your wide receivers start to lose their confidence, and you're not doing anything to help them. I'm sorry, but to me, that's a coaching issue. That is an absolute coaching issue. That has to be fixed. And I think with the conversations that were had on Monday, that's going to get fixed. I think somebody's had enough. One person in particular has had enough. And if you're going to piss off the best quarterback in football or that football's ever seen, then that's on you. Then you're the dumb fuck that did that. But make sure he understands what he's got going into this game. He made it very clear what he's got going into this game. I hope these guys understand it.
So how do you guys expect the Chiefs to play against the Dolphins then?
I think they're going to come out exactly like I just said. I think they're going to come out with different packages altogether. What's up, Chiefs Live? I mean, I do. I think they're going to line everybody up the way they should be lined up against the right people and put them out on the field to succeed. And I don't see Sky Moore getting nearly as many snaps as he's gotten the first 8 weeks of the season.
What do you think,
I just don't see it happening.
It's weird because usually at this time of the year, the exact conversations we're having is about
the defense,
or flipped, or complete. Exactly. It's flipped. We're talking about how the offense has been clicking, it's been doing its thing, but the defense, we're just waiting for it to start up. And it's just really funny that these are the conversations that we're having about Patrick Mahomes and an Andy Reid offense.
I know.
Look, I think that they came out flat last week against the Broncos on it. We all saw it. There was a lack of energy, and when your leader has the flu, you're going to have something like that. So I think because of how flat they came out and because they got embarrassed by a team they've beaten, for damn near 8 straight years.
Yeah.
I think they're going to come out with a ton of energy, and this might be actually a game. If you win the coin toss, you might receive it. Like, you might elect to receive. Just to get on the field and go and score. Right? Just to make sure that, you set the tone early. I'm generally used to kicking the ball off and trying to get that double score opportunity at the end of the half and at the start of the third quarter. This might be the one time where I'm like, no, you should elect to receive the ball and drive down the field and score.
Yeah.
I don't think they start off flat. I'm going to be honest with you. Little preview to the end of the game. I was going to choose the Dolphins to win this game. For a couple of weeks now, I've been debating. I was like, okay, Kansas City's going to come up with a couple of losses somewhere along the schedule. Where are they going to come from? I was going to pick the Dolphins to win this game. Then they got smoked by the Broncos, and I cannot see an Andy Reid team getting beat down like that again. Andy Reid, and really this is just a good coach thing where you don't let the one loss turn into 2, turn into 3, etc. Like, that's just what good coaches, good teams, that's just not what happens. So because I think that they're going to be extra prepared for this game, that I don't see the lack of any energy coming out on the field happen.
I don't either. I
like that.
I want to answer Will real quick. He said, who do we think the third running back is going to be? It's going to be P. Ryan. I imagine it'll be P. Ryan. I'm sure they'll probably elevate him if Clyde's not ready, which I'm kind of assuming he's not going to be.
Yeah, he's going to play.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to play. So it'll mostly be P. Ryan. He needs to be elevated anyway. So he's a good running back. Here, and one other thing I want to bring up before we get off this Broncos thing. I got asked a ton of questions on Twitter or on PSF about why why was Mahomes out there? Actually, on both of them, if, he was sick. Well, okay, first of all, your backup quarterback blows. And we all know that. He sucks. He's a terrible backup. There's a reason why he's played for every team in the league. Because he's not fucking good. Okay? You have a third-string quarterback that's better than him, but you can't elevate. You can't just move him up and say, okay, Blaine, sit down. So who are you going to elevate? I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to bring in Blaine Gabbert to really fuck us? Because he's terrible. He will not be here longer than this year. That's a guarantee. Chris O will be moved up to the backup quarterback behind Patrick Mahomes by the end of the season. And Blaine Gabbert, if he's a third string next year, that's great. Let him get somebody some Gatorade, hang out with somebody. I don't care what he does as long as he's not on the field. He's terrible. So there's your answer to that if anybody wanted to know. Because that's what I was asked a lot. And who are you going to – I mean, Blaine Gabbert. Come on. I don't know why they did what they did. I don't know why they kept him. I don't know what they've seen in him over Shane Buechele, maybe other than experience. But he doesn't know our system. And he's arrogant. He's a pretty arrogant guy for somebody that's been a backup his entire career. So that's why that's why Mahomes played in that game, because he's not a quitter. He's not a guy and he didn't play bad. Okay, he had 125 yards more than Russell Wilson did. I mean, it's not like he played terrible. It was the guys around him that weren't playing well. You can't blame him for other people's mistakes. He didn't make them run the wrong route. He didn't make Sky Moore drop the ball. You know, it just is what it is. The only thing you could say about Mahomes in that game is he didn't run like he normally does. If Mahomes was healthy and ran the ball more in that game, we probably would have won it. It's that simple.
That's fair.
But we couldn't. So even with the fuck ups, we would have won the game. But here's the thing. We are, I want to say 24th or 25th in the league in red zone touchdowns. 27th, I'm sorry. 27th in the league in red zone touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken. We were 5th in the league last year in red zone touchdowns, and we weren't the greatest in that area last year, but we were 5th. This year, we're tailing it hard. And that's a lot of that has to do with players you have in the positions to succeed. If you don't have McKinnon in the red zone, you're stupid. I'm sorry, but you are. If you're not using McKinnon in the red zone, that's just a dumb mistake. And I've heard people say, well, they're saving him for the last half of the season. For what? Did he get hurt at all last year doing it? No, he didn't. Is he hurt right now? No, he's not. Why are you saving him? Him and Kelsey are the two biggest red zone threats we have. But you got one of them out there instead of two. Makes no sense. That, to me, is a little bit of Matt Nagy, being a little too conservative. And I like Matt Nagy. I think he draws up phenomenal plays. I think he's a great coach. But he's being too conservative because he has trust issues with these wide receivers, right? Again, for himself. And he's portraying that onto other players. And I don't like that. He's making the players not trust themselves. And that's something that has to end. Get a red zone package with Kelsey, McKinnon, Rice, Tony, and Hardman. Yeah. I mean, who are you going to cover? Who are you going to cover if you've got that red zone package from the 20 going in? Somebody's going to get a touchdown. One of those guys right there will catch the ball. Sky Moore does not belong in the red zone. Sky Moore doesn't belong at the 50-yard line. He doesn't belong at the 25-yard line. Right now he belongs on the bench trying to figure out what the fuck he's been doing wrong. And get rid of that diva mentality that he's got a little bit by not taking any responsibility for his actions.
I do like the point of using McKinnon in the red zone. I do think that there is value in using him. And he was successful last year, right? He had, 8 or 9 straight games in
10,
a row
I
with
think.
a touchdown.
He had 10 total.
And so it was 9 and 9 in a row, 9 games in a row with a touchdown.
Yeah.
And I do think you have to incorporate some of that back in the game. I think that comes from getting involved in some of those short passing game. You got to change up something, right, and go back to what was working last year. So, yeah, getting McKinnon involved in the red zone offense, I think makes sense.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, absolutely. And you've got one of the most dynamic running backs in the league right now. I'm sorry, but you do. This guy's a beast.
Find ways to get him the ball.
Give him the ball, man. Whether it's a short pass or if it's out of the backfield with somebody opening a hole, he hits the holes and he hits them hard. He may have a couple three runs that are 3 or 4 yards apiece, but he's going to break one. And when he does, he's going to put you in a position to score. So start using him more. That's what he's there for. We just got to go back to the fundamentals of what we did last year and stop all this experimenting shit. By week 8, that should have been done. You should have known who was good and who wasn't. But to continually go back to the same thing over and over again, I know Andy's big about pumping up his guys, but you can only pump so much, and then it's time to say, okay, well, we got to just move on from them guys and try something different. Well, so, anyway,
I think
what's
it's
next?
time for our Believe It or Not.
That's
Believe
what it
It
is.
or Not section. Quentin is.
Let's just start off with the obvious one. All right. We've got Tyreek Hill, who's been the most dynamic wide receiver in the NFL this year, and honestly has a case for MVP in the NFL. So, believe it or not, Kansas City keeps Tyreek Hill under 100 yards.
Yes. This is personal.
100%.
This is personal. He has been a lot of talking there. He's going to get knocked down. And won't be surprised if there's some talk now. He may get a catch or two, but it's personal. It's on site with him.
Yeah.
You know, I think that because I think they're just going to feed in the ball a ton. because it is personal. So I think he's going to get force-fed the ball. And when we look back at it, it's going to be like, yeah, he had a lot of yards, but it didn't feel like a lot. So just because I think he's going to get fed the ball a ton.
I don't see it. I see him, and I actually predicted this on PSF. I think that the two together will have right at 100 yards. Him and
Who's
Waddle.
the two? Waddle, okay.
Waddle and Tyreek. And I say that because, one, it's personal, 100% with what Caleb said. But number two, they have not – the two teams that they have faced with a decent defense, not even our defense, especially our secondary, have shut them down.
Yeah.
Our secondary is number one in the league right now. Number one in the league. They have not faced anybody like us. They've faced some good secondaries. They've faced some decent teams, but they've not faced us. And it's personal on our side just as much as it is for him. I think it's 100 yards for the both of them.
All right, moving on to another one. Number 2 on the night. Kansas City Chiefs defensive line is on a tear. George Karlaftis, Mike Dana, and Chris Jones are all either having career years or on pace to equal their career year, with that being Chris Jones. So believe it or not, Kansas City ends the day with 3 or more sacks.
Yes. They have the option to do it. They're going to get pseudo rattled. I believe they can do that.
He's an easy guy to rattle. So if you get in the backfield quick, which they're pretty accustomed to doing, especially with the Minihue now on the field, they're going to get 3 sacks. They're probably going to get 4.
It's crazy that Minihue just sort of came back and was just like, yeah, I can party here.
Yeah. It's nuts, man. I mean, the guy is so good. By the way, I don't want to interrupt you, but did you see the press conference with him when they asked him if he knew anything about Germany?
Mm-hmm.
That was classic. He's funny. He's a funny guy. I mean, he really is. He goes, "Do I know anything about Germany?" Yeah, didn't they win the World Cup? And they said, yeah, he did. Yeah, see, I know something about Germany then. You're right. I know something about Germany. They did win a World Cup. It was like 8 years ago, but they did win one. But yeah, I know something about them. That's all he knew about him. But he knew something. So that's all that mattered. I like the guy. I like his personality. I like everything about him. He's perfect for this football team. What's your opinion, Quentin, on the sacks?
Yeah, look, I think that I don't think that there's going to be a ton of rushing yards by the Dolphins. I think they might try and establish the run a little bit early because, like I brought up earlier, they do come from that Shanahan tree. So even though we see the huge passing yards come from Waddle and Tyreek, we think this team is sort of a almost like a heavy spread college offense, but it's not. It still is based off the run game, and so I think that they're not going to be able to establish that run. They're going to be forced to pass the ball, and that's where you're going to get a lot of your pressures from. That's sort of my logic there.
Yeah. Their pressure is going to be really high. Their pressure rate is going to be extremely high.
I hope so. All right, my final one here. We're going to move to the offensive side of the ball. Kadarius Toney has over 50 yards.
Yes.
I don't believe it.
I believe he does.
I got to see it.
I think they're going to work him in.
I just feel at this point, I just need to see them actually draw plays up for him and get him the ball so he can take Sky Moore's spot. That I just have to, because we know what he can do. He just is not given the opportunity, and that's been the problem.
And that's why I'm saying yes, because from what I've heard, and if they do what they say they were going to do, he's going to be a lot more heavily involved, and they're going to put him in positions to succeed.
Okay.
So if they do that, I believe he'll get over 50 yards.
Okay.
Quentin?
I feel like that I'm with Caleb. Okay. I'm to the point where I want to see it to believe it, but I also really want it to happen.
Yeah. So
I think I'll just go ahead and say yes. But damn.
Quinn and I agree finally. It's been a year, but we did it.
Yeah. I have a feeling, man. I just got a feeling they're going to change everything up. And I don't think they're just saying this to say it. I think they're saying it because they know they need to. This is the time of the year. Look, you got Miami, bye week, Eagles. This is not fuck around time anymore. This is, we got to put it down and we got to do it now. I mean, I know we got the Raiders sprinkled in twice and one more Chargers game, but we still have a lot of tough games coming. We got tough games coming up. It's time to make some changes, and I think this is the week they're going to do it. They're not going to lose 2 weeks in a row, and they're definitely going to lose in Germany. So,
Yep.
All right. Score predictions. I'm gonna say 27-24 Chiefs. Butker, final 2-minute field goal to win the game.
Okay. I'm going to say 23-22 Chiefs. I think it's going to come down to like whoever has the ball less. And I think there's going to be a point where both defenses are going to get crucial stops in the red zone. So I say 23-22 Chiefs.
Well, we did this last night on the midweek show on PSF, and I went back to my Chargers score, and I'm going back to it again. 31-17 Chiefs. They're going to hold Miami to under 20 points, and this is the week that they actually just show out, offensively show out. And I think there's going to be a defensive pick six in this.
That'd be nice.
I think that they're going to rattle to it to the point where he throws an errant pass directly into the hands of Snead or McDuffie or even Justin Reed, and it's going to get brought back for a touchdown. It could even be a linebacker, who knows? But I feel like it's going to be one of those three guys. So, what do you got, Thiz? What's your score prediction? See if he spits it.
You put yeah. Oh, we got here Phillips too.
Yeah, we got to hear Phillips.
27-23 Chiefs.
3 Chiefs, okay. Philip, what's your score prediction? If you can type it in. I don't know, man. I just heard some good things coming out of there this week. And let's talk real quick. Oh, 31-23 Chiefs. Okay, I like it. Pretty well-rounded number right there. Let's talk a little bit about the Raiders. Oh, Will's got. I'm sorry, Will. I didn't know you were still on here. This thing gives us a count of how many people are on the show, but it's never correct. So we never really know who's here and who's not, unless you guys are talking. So spit it out every once in a while, buddy. You got 31-17 as well. Let's go with it. We got to talk about this Raiders shakeup a little bit. I didn't expect Mark Davis to have it in him. I really didn't. I didn't think he was going to do it, especially with all of the people that were brought over from, the Patriots. There's like 8 or 9 coaches that were brought over from the Patriots. And then Tom Brady's in the mix. So I didn't expect him to do that this quickly. But what I found out, and I actually spouted this off on PSF, I think either last night or even, I don't know what day it was. I think I typed it in there as well. Davis has been having like going out to dinner with his players for the last couple of weeks. Devontae Adams, Max Crosby, Josh Jacobs, a few other guys, and asking them about the culture, how they feel about the coach, how they feel about what's going on, the mood in the locker room, everything, the energy in the locker room. And after the last dinner that he had, which was, I believe, Monday night, he made that decision on Tuesday. Well, he actually made it Monday night, but called it on Tuesday. So Josh McDaniels made NFL history. He's the only coach in NFL history to be fired by 2 separate teams a year and a half into his tenure as a head coach. That's an NFL record. I hope he's proud of it. And we know that he'll probably somehow end up with Belichick again if Belichick continues to coach after this season.
Oh, shit.
But
here we go again.
Whether it be with the Patriots or Chicago or Cleveland or even the Chargers, which I doubt, he's going to be back somewhere with somebody. I don't see him getting another head coaching job forever. Um, he's been, I mean, he shit on two different. He's destroyed two different teams very quickly.
I know now he just needs to go to the Chargers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Really a bad thing. I mean, if you jump, look, man, if you're the Chargers organization, you jump out of the fire or out of the pan and jump straight into the fire with that guy, you're a screwball. But regardless, and then he shit on the Colts, about 5 minutes before their press conference, and said, "Oh, I decided I didn't want to go with you," while they're standing there at the podium waiting for him, and goes back to the Patriots. I don't see him getting another job in the NFL. Mark Davis is an idiot. Everybody knows this. He's a terrible owner. He doesn't know football. He's made giant mistakes with coaching for the last 15 years. I mean, you can't really defend anything he's done. In my opinion, they should have kept Derek Carr because at least, I mean, I know he was probably at his wit's end as well to a degree, but he's a better option than Jimmy Garoppolo. And Garoppolo got things for 80 years. So. And then they had the balls to put out on Twitter today. Let's all wish Jimmy Garoppolo a happy birthday. The Raiders. I mean, if you're not, I mean, that's just cold. Here's your gift, the bench. I mean,
The bench.
that's rough, man. No matter how you look at it, that's rough.
Here,
But-
hey, you sit right here.
Yeah,
This is
yeah.
your spot right
Here's
here,
your
right here.
clipboard.
Nice
I
and
got you that.
comfortable.
Yeah, I got you a clipboard. It's
Here's some
brand new.
Skittles while you're at it. And here's a little water.
Exactly. I got you a brand new Raiders water bottle. You're
Mhm.
good to go. That was a cold-blooded ass thing to do by the Raiders, man. I mean, let's wish him happy birthday a day after we benched his ass. But whatever. It is what it is. What'd you guys think of that whole mess of a thing?
It's weird to wake up at 3 a.m. and I realized I hadn't plugged my phone in, see an ESPN update, and my half asleep brain is like, the Raiders fired their head coach. Swipe away the ESPN notification, plug my phone in, and then my boss is talking to me later in the day. He's like, "Did you see the Raiders fired their head coach?" I was like, "Oh yeah, it's crazy, right?"
Yep. I agree. It's the Raiders gonna Raider. It looks like they're finally turning around, but again, I have to believe it. I have to see it to believe it.
Dysfunctional franchises do dysfunctional things.
Exactly.
I don't know about. I mean, look, man. Champ Kelly was actually with the Denver Broncos with the Josh McDaniels thing, so I don't know why they moved him up to intern GM.
Maybe he's just a fill-in. So
well, it's interim. I mean, he thinks he's going to stay, and if you listen to their head coach, you would think you were listening to Eric Bieniemy, because in the pressers, man, I was telling this. That dude he talked about himself in third person 5 times in 3 minutes.
third person.
And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Who the hell? I mean, okay, it's great to be confident, but damn, dude, you were a linebackers coach your whole career.
Well, I mean, he did win a Super Bowl. I mean, he is showing that, hey, he's ready to do what he has to do. So I think they're going to be fine.
I hope he doesn't put a whole bunch of pressure on himself.
But I think they'll be okay.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be able to help them figure things out.
Well, apparently people are a lot happier there. So if that makes any difference, I mean,
that's probably, let's get someone in there who knows what they're doing, and that's kind of what
the players are happy. So that's the big thing. The players are happy. They got rid of everybody, by the way. I mean, they got rid of all the Josh McDaniels group except for him, basically, which is weird because he was brought over with Josh or recommended by Josh and Ziegler. But hey man, whatever. Like you said, dysfunctional franchises do to dysfunctional things, and we've seen that out of them for a very long time, and that's all due to bowl cut. That wig of a man called Mark Davis. He's a terrible owner. I mean, I wonder who cuts his hair. You think he's got a Flowbee? It looks like a Flowbee.
Someone's doing something. It's not great, but he
you
likes
guys remember
it, so
the
that's all that
Flobies?
matters.
You guys old enough to remember the Flowbee?
What's a Flowbee?
Dude, it was a vacuum. It was a vacuum, and it had you can adjust. You can put different heads on it, and you could just run it across your head and cut your hair. And people went fucking crazy over it, man. It was on QVC. It was on every shopping network. It was at Walmart, Target. I mean, people went nuts over it. Then all of a sudden, people realized that they look stupid after they cut their hair and they try to do it on their own.
Is that why you always wear a hat?
Absolutely not. But they started using it on the dogs. They thought, okay, this will work for dogs. So, oh God, that's good. And it started, people loved it for the dogs. And if you go to some groomers, they still have them. And they still use them for like poodles. Because you can put that one head on it and just, and it sucks the hair up and you don't have to worry about it. That's what it looks like. It looks like he's getting his hair cut with a Flowbee. Or it's just a bad rug. I don't know. Or bad plugs. Don't know which one it is. Bad rug, bad plugs, Flowbee. It doesn't matter. That guy is terrible for football. He's great for the WNBA, though. I will give him that. He brought in a great coach for them. With that being said, I don't know what else we got. You guys got anything else?
No, we covered everything.
We will be the earliest Chiefs Focus post-game show in Chiefs Focus history on Sunday.
Yeah. And by the way, I have to do the live game cast at 6:30 a.m. my time. Yeah.
That's not fun. But
well, hold on. Wait, I don't know. Do you do your fall? Does Nevada do fallback? Does Nevada believe in?
They do.
Okay.
This is supposed to be. Supposedly, this was the last year for everybody. We'll see if that actually happens.
Arizona maybe that doesn't do.
Arizona does not. No, Arizona does not.
One of those desert states doesn't believe in it.
It's Arizona. Arizona doesn't believe in it. It changes one time a year for us, an hour difference, but they don't believe in it. So, which is smart. Nobody should believe in it anymore. Do you know why it was actually originally invented?
For the farmers.
Yeah, farming and then turned into business.
Yeah, which doesn't really make a difference anymore. I mean, everything's grown inside of a fucking greenhouse now, except for, you don't need it. It's not needed. It's just not needed. But anyway, so join PSF, you guys, on Sunday morning at, 6:30 or whatever time zone you're in. And I'll be drinking a large cup of coffee and we'll be talking about the game live from Frankfurt. So anyway, we will talk to you guys again on Sunday after the game, after the Chiefs win. Peace out, everybody.